quite like this.
Building trust for generations.
Celebrating 55 years.
The time by Sagicor is
7 o'clock.
Tonight in CVM News at 7, candlelight vigil tragedy. 3 dead in St. Mary after shooting at memorial for slain woman. Fatal fire claims life of woman in Barrett Hall, St. James. Dr. Tuftton responds to karma comments by Dr. Fenton Ferguson in dead baby tragedy. PNP leader outlines plans ahead of election during Westmoreland tour. And in sports, Thompson captures 100-meter at Prefontaine Classic. Hello from Kingston, Jamaica. This is CVM News at 7 for Saturday, July 5, 2025. I'm Carolyn Brown. Thanks so much for joining us. A vigil held in St. Mary to honor a young woman who was allegedly killed by her police boyfriend took a tragic turn Friday night. 2 relatives of the accused cop were shot and killed during the event, and a 3rd attendee was later found dead. Raymond Morrison has the details.
Moment of remembrance for 21-year-old Dejanay Graham quickly descended into tragedy Thursday night as gunshots interrupted a candlelight vigil in the Essex community of St. Mary. 2 people were shot and killed on the scene, Shaquille Harris and Tiffany Dowse. Both victims were from St. Catherine and are believed to be relatives of the police constable suspect in Graham's death.
Major investigation division is conducting investigation into double murder of Shaquille Harris and Tiffany Dowse, which happened here in the Essex district last night about 10:20 p.m. This investigation is in its early stages.
Police say the shooting occurred after 10:30 p.m. as mourners gathered to pay tribute to Graham, who was fatally shot last week. After Harris and Dowse were taken to the hospital and pronounced dead, the body of Othniel Douglas was found. His cause of death not yet known.
The police was called to a scene at Flint River, where one Othniel Douglas was found dead on his veranda about 6 a.m. this morning. This investigation is being conducted by the Port Maria Criminal Investigation Branch.
Investigators have not yet determined the motive for Thursday's attack, but confirmed that several leads are being followed. The shooting comes as the original case involving police constable accused of killing his partner remains under active investigation. 3 families are left to mourn in a community still reeling from back-to-back tragedies. Raymond Morrison, CVM News.
And detectives in Montego Bay are looking into the death of a young woman whose dwelling was partially gutted by fire in the early hours of Saturday morning. She has been identified as 20-year-old Kajon Kalisa Castle of a June Plum Avenue in Barrett Hall, Montego Bay, St. James address. Residents reported seeing their neighbor's dwelling engulfed in flames and alerted the fire department. The firefighters managed to extinguish the blaze but only recovered the body of the occupant. And also in St. James, the community of Barrett Hall was rocked by the murder of Everton Gray, otherwise called Fire, who was born on July 23, 1974, a painter of Barrett Hall, St. James. Reports are at approximately 9 p.m. on Friday, citizens heard several loud explosions and summoned the police. Upon their arrival, the body was found in the yard with what appeared to be multiple gunshot wounds. Now, as the public discourse surrounding the unfortunate deaths of 24 babies in the span of 24 days at the Victoria Jubilee Hospital continues, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tuftton was asked again to comment while at a groundbreaking ceremony for a 20,000 square foot outpatient facility at the Maypen Hospital. Well, he chided those who have sought to gain political mileage from the heartbreak of others.
The issue has occurred with a lot of empathy and sympathy. We reach out to the families and at the same time explain exactly what transpired and what the government has been doing to prevent or minimize those kind of risks. It's a little different from what people are comparing it with. As I said, this is not an infection within the hospital. This is a matter of premature births as outlined by the report and the chief medical officer. And it's unfortunate that people are using it as a political ploy.
Former Health Minister Dr. Fenton Ferguson, who endured the political fallout from his handling of the so-called dead baby scandal in 2015, when 19 babies died as a result of bacterial infection, while speaking at the People's National Party East Portland office opening, questioned how the government of Jamaica was using public funds to improve child and maternal care in the country when he made the following comments.
I remember well when I won the government now in opposition that it was bad politics to bring politics into health and education. They need to listen. But karma is a hell of a thing. And while I stand still regretting the loss of those 18 babies and the mothers, we are now seeing a 30% increase on that number. During my time, it was 4 hospitals. Now we are talking about 1 hospital in 1 month, 24 in 25 days, and we just finished June.
This is how Minister Tuftton responded.
I saw former Minister Fenton Ferguson making a comment recently. I think otherwise he's a nice person. I know him. But the comment was also another very unfortunate comment. I'm not sure how he could demonstrate that lack of judgment and indeed emotional intelligence by speaking about karma involving the death of babies. That is, I'm a loss for words. I mean, I understand the political season and we need to try to do a one-up-man thing, but it makes no sense, and it certainly confirms in my mind why his judgment would have been so misguided back in 2015 when he was asked to leave the portfolio. We don't compare these things. We look at challenges, we solve challenges. We find the correction that are necessary. We learn from mistakes made of the past, and we move forward.
Dr. Tuftton insists that in spite of the emotional weight often carried by the Minister of the Health portfolio in managing circumstances that can often be literally life or death, the ministry remains focused on improving the standards of healthcare even when faced with backlash.
I have never really allowed the distraction of those who are seeking to have a political advantage in this case affect my role, which is to objectively assess, let the chips fall where they may, yes, take the correction. If the correction involves people, we take those corrections. If it involves equipment, building, or indeed maternal health, where we have to do more outreach, as in this case for pregnant women in communities, which is why we're building out health centers. So that's our position, and we stay in focus.
Joel Crosskill, CVM News.
Opposition leader Mark Golding, while speaking in Negril earlier on Saturday, provided additional insight into the plans of the PNP to woo potential voters from the parish into the party's column.
The People's National Party two-day island-wide tour rolled through Western Westmoreland, where PNP candidate Ian Hales and a substantial crowd welcomed the arrival of party leader Mark Golding, who responded to recent calls to clarify the policy positions of the party ahead of the impending general elections. Golding first spoke on his party's plans for housing.
Our 50,000 houses that we are going to be building for the people. We have identified public lands that are not suitable for agriculture to provide housing on those lands, and we are not going to charge the value of the land in the price of the house. You can estimate that the value of the land in the house will be between $2 and $3 million per housing unit. So when you buy one of those houses, you're going to get an additional $2 to $3 million of value, courtesy of the market PNP government, and you're going to be a much wealthier person as a result of that progressive policy.
In continuation of the PNP's vision of housing reform, Golding described the planned rent-to-own program.
We believe in financial inclusion, so you can come into the ownership through being a tenant. So what we will do is we have the rent-to-own program for you. So when we build out those affordable houses, and you don't have a pay slip to show proof of income, we'll say come in as a tenant first, pay the monthly payments equal to the mortgage for say 6 months, and once you establish that you can handle it, well, we'll say you prove your income, you don't need no pay slip, you can draw down on the mortgage loan, and you can become an owner of the house from a tenant to an owner.
Rural school transportation is also another significant consideration on the agenda.
Our plan is a well-thought-through plan. We call it the RIDE program. So we know that many parents struggle to send their children to school because of the cost of transportation. And many children in Jamaica don't go to school 5 days a week. So we are starting with a subsidy, $500 per school day for 20,000 children across Jamaica. We're not importing a whole bus, 100 whole bus to say children go and get carried to school and then the whole bus say. And we know that plan can't work. The Darrell Vast plan is a dead stock plan. No, the PNP plan will run that money, $1.9 billion a year, through the transport operators, the taxi man them, and the bus man them. So again, we have multiple beneficiaries from the plan. The bus man and the taxi man get the $1.9 billion of the subsidy, and the parents get the benefit of relief from having to find the full fare, and the children get to go to school 5 days a week.
While ganja's cultivation as a driving force for agricultural development was also mentioned as an essential strand of the plans.
When we come back to power, when we come back to office, it will be a new day for the ganja industry again. We're going to complete the work that we started that we didn't get to finish. We want to ensure that it really becomes a tool of empowerment and liberation for small farmers who build the industry after over 100 years of oppression on the ganja laws.
Executive Director of Jamaica Charity for the Homeless and Disabled, Cleon Porter, has issued a plea to the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities to lead essential reforms relating to the care and access of persons with disabilities in prison.
The Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, JCPD, is called upon to take urgent action by recommending the government of Jamaica to amend the Disabilities Act to explicitly include the comprehensive guidelines, policies, and laws concerning the treatment and care of inmates with mental illness and ensuring the prisons and jails are accessible for persons with disability. It is deeply disheartening that the current Disabilities Act does not address the specific needs of incarcerated individuals with disabilities, particularly those suffering from mental health.
In 2023, the Ministry of National Security proposed the development of national standards for correctional services, supported by the Bureau of Standards Jamaica, the BSJ. However, the committee's current work program indicates there have been no achievements to date.
The question remains, what progress has been made on this draft standard? The JCPD, Jamaica Council for Persons with Disability, is called upon to leverage its influence and authority to expedite the adoption and implementation of this draft standard. Doing so will significantly enhance the protection of mentally ill inmates, improve safety for all inmates and staff, and shield government and taxpayers from potential financial liabilities resulting from neglect or inadequate policies.
In honor of the 132nd anniversary of National Hero, the Right Excellent Norman Manley's birth, the Jamaica Cultural Development Corporation, JCDC, in collaboration with the Manchester Municipal Corporation, hosted a floral tribute ceremony at his birthplace in Roxborough, Manchester, under the theme, Education, the Pathway for Growth and Development. Crystal Williams has that story.
July 4, 2025 marks the 132nd birthday of national hero and political stalwart, the Right Excellent Norman Washington Manley. On Friday morning, his birthday was celebrated by the residents of his naturally air-conditioned birthplace, Roxborough, Manchester. The mayor of Mandeville, Councillor Donovan Mitchell, acknowledged the responsibility of the citizens of Manchester to carry on the legacy that Norman Manley has started.
Norman Manley once says, "We have to lift the standard of the people by education and training, by better health, and by the creation of opportunities."
Member of Parliament for Manchester North Western, Michael Phillips, challenged Jamaicans to follow the footsteps of Norman Manley by being the change that they want to see in the country for generations to come.
As we celebrate Norman Manley's birthday, it gives us time to reflect on the type of Jamaica that it is that we want to create. And in Norman Manley's last public address to the PMP's annual conference, and I'll quote, "I say that the mission of my generation was to win self-government for Jamaica, to win political power, which is the final power for the black masses of my country, from which I sprang. I am proud to stand here today and say to you who fought the fight with me, say it with gladness and pride, mission accomplished for my generation." And it begs the question of what is the mission of our generation? Because it cannot be just Vision 2030. Norman Manley spoke of that self-governance. But the Jamaica that we have today, in my view, is not the Jamaica that Norman Manley and the rest of our national heroes had envisioned that we would have been today.
Keynote speaker and attorney at law, Jody Ann Quarry, highlighted the vital work that was done by Minister Manley in education, law, and politics.
Norman Washington Manley, as one of our national heroes, did a lot of thinking about these sorts of things. And so when you look at our national heroes and you see them as these icons, you also have to see them as very practical people living in society. It's very easy for us to, after they've died and we're long past, look at them as magical people who did magical things. Your life and his are quite similar. Reading through these books made me very aware that he had rough days too, that he decided that he did the wrong thing, that he had to rearrange some life goals, and that everything sounds fine in the end, but when you're in the messy middle, it's not so great after all. But if education is to be the path to growth and development, then we have to see the seeds that we must water. And the seeds that Norman Manley left behind in order to help us see what the future of development and of education can be here in Jamaica. He was a national hero, but he was a freedom fighter, a barrister, a builder of institutions here in this country, who believed with deep conviction that education was the truest foundation of a just society.
She also highlighted his visions of a country moving together towards self-government by working on governing ourselves.
You have to see something, the vision of it, and you have to be okay with it not working exactly the way you wanted it to work, but you have to see that vision. What are the seeds we're planting today that we can allow to be watered for the future? What are the visions that we are planting today, the things that we are doing today that allow us to then have a future that allows us to say we saw something, some goal, some dream, some aspiration for Jamaica and the region, and we decided it was worth working towards.
Quarry agreed that while there are commendable developments underway in Jamaica's education sector, there is still a far way to go. Crystal Williams, CVM News.
More CVM News at 7 in just a moment.
Our guest today has competed in 5 Olympic Games. I'm talking about Jamaica's most decorated swimmer. It's none other than Aaliyah Atkinson. Do you know that Jamaica is very proud?
But I never got that while I was swimming. In 2014, I was the first person of color, male or female, to ever get a world record in swimming.
Wow.
And I was like, seriously? And you take the little girl from Jamaica to do it?
We're really looking at something and saying in 2020 something, there's a first black person to do something. You are that person.
Swimming is another obstacle that we need to overcome. I think as a nation, living on an island and having so many gullies and rivers and lakes.
Hey, you're up to the gullies, you know?
And we welcome you back with regional and international news.
We begin with news in the region. Trinidad and Tobago will be a priority nation for India. That's the assurance from India's Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi as he made his historic speech to a joint session of Parliament on Friday, becoming the first national of India to address both chambers. We hear more from TTT News.
Trinidad Tobago will be a priority nation for us.
A promise from India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the people of Trinidad and Tobago as his 2-day visit to TNT wound down. But Prime Minister Modi said priority will always be with the Global South, including deepening trade with Trinidad and Tobago.
We will encourage our businesses to invest more in this country. Our development partnership will expand. Training capacity, building, and skill development will keep human development as its center.
Prime Minister Modi emphasized the link between both countries, some 180 years since the beginning of Indian indentureship.
Oceans away, the Indian beats blended beautifully with the Caribbean rhythm.
In Guyana, President Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali has officially dissolved Guyana's 12th Parliament and all regional democratic councils, clearing the way for general and regional elections on September 1. We hear from HDP TV.
By way of proclamation, Guyana's head of state, Irfan Ali, brought an end to parliamentary business and has paved the way for the September 1 general and regional elections. The proclamation was signed Thursday.
I have signed this afternoon Proclamation Number 1 of 2025, dissolving the 12th Parliament of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana.
Additionally, the proclamation will also dissolve the regional democratic councils in accordance with Article 73(2) of the Constitution.
I've also signed a proclamation dissolving the regional democratic councils. The proclamations also designate the 1st September 2025 as the date on which general and regional elections shall be held in the Cooperative Republic of Guyana.
As political parties prepare for Nomination Day on July 14, President Ali urged all Guyanese to participate fully in the elections process.
I urge all eligible Guyanese to participate in the upcoming elections, and in so doing, be part of this critical decision-making process of the state. The task of administering the forthcoming elections rests with the Guyana Elections Commission, and I remain confident in its ability to hold free, fair, and credible elections.
And in international news, officials in the U.S. state of Texas say at least 13 people have died in overnight flash floods. That's after torrential rains triggered an overflow of the Guadalupe River. More.
It's time now for Inspire Jamaica. Just how essential is it to stick to the recommendations in the process of prioritizing mental health? Well, the experts will tell you it's very important, and the lessons are not gender specific.
Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place if you can.
His was a tug-of-war which even saw him making a deal with his creator.
I smoked, right? I didn't remember that I took some pills. Yeah. And I started drinking rum and bum. For that time that I drank the rum and bum, my heart started to race, right? Of course, it was washing me like a river running down my face. And I felt like I was going to pass out, and I said, God, if you make me pass through this, I would serve you, right? I'll give my life to you. I blacked out. Then I wake up back, right? And I said, okay, I'm going to stop. A little bit, I didn't know that I was going to go back to the same stuff again. It's there and then I made a confession to my mom and said, Mom, I really wanted to stop this stuff. I told my mom that I needed to go somewhere where I can't get any of it. She heard about Teen Challenge, so I came to Teen Challenge. A little bit did I know that it's a drug and rehabilitation center facilitating life controlling problems one person at a time, right? And I started to slaughter chickens. But the thing about it, I had to go out with them and look for the fire stick. So I got tired of it and saying, I'm not going to do this. I packed my stuff and I left. The director told me I was doing the wrong thing. I should turn back.
It took some time and even an encounter with deception, but he eventually returned.
Went through the program, did the full year as a student, graduated the program, went to internship, got a year, then they decided to send me to Grenada to minister to some of the guys over there. I went over there, did all that, I came back here. Now I'm managing the beehive, greenhouse. I'm doing a little bit of plumbing. I could slaughter too, but I chose not to. And it really helped me throughout my years. I'm free from alcohol, free from marijuana. You know, I still take my meds.
Introducing a relationship with Jesus Christ. That's what we do at Adult and Teen Challenge Jamaica. A relationship, the Word of God, is the catalyst for change. And yes, we know mental illness does have to be treated, But we also come to see and come to understand that when you have a foundation, family structure, faith structure, when you have that as a firm foundation, you couple that with the medication and the transformation becomes increased, it becomes exorbitant.